Speaking of the most influential anime of 2014, it could only be Tokyo Ghoul. The moment this familiar BGM starts, it stirs the DNA of countless veteran otakus. Kaneki never could have imagined that the girl of his dreams, Rise, would turn out to be a flesh-eating monster. This is an unusual world. Here, beings known as ghouls coexist with humans. They look no different from ordinary people, but possess physical abilities far beyond human limits. They also wield predatory organs called kagune, used both for feeding and fighting. Humans treat ghoul incidents as everyday occurrences, regarding them as little more than beasts hunting for food. Though frightening, such events rarely cause mass panic. Kaneki recalls the time he met Rise in a cafe. Her long purple hair and elegant charm drew him in at once. More importantly, she shared his love of books. One weekend, the two had a library date. They chatted happily, and Rise's subtle allure left Kaneki blushing. Just as he was lost in a dreamlike moment, Rise revealed her crimson kagune, instantly shattering the illusion. "I like something even more than reading," she said. "That's dragging the guts out of my prey, watching them struggle as I devour them. Oh, such a beautiful expression. Let me lose myself in it again." Kaneki stumbled and ran, but what could a human strength do against a ghoul like Rise? She toyed with him, stabbing his body over and over. Soon, Kaneki collapsed, unconscious. But just as Rise prepared to feast, a bundle of steel beams fell from above, crushing her. When Kaneki next opened his eyes, he was lying in a hospital bed. Doctors said his injuries were not serious, but Kaneki soon noticed something wrong. Food no longer tasted like food. Everything smelled rotten, putrid. After being discharged, he struggled to return to normal life. His best friend Hide offered him his favorite hamburger, but Kaneki could barely swallow a bite. On TV, the news explained ghouls' diets. Their tongues are built differently, so human food tastes disgusting to them. Only by consuming human flesh can ghouls survive. Horrified, Kaneki forced food into his mouth, only to vomit it back out. Even the hamburger steak he once loved was now revolting. Worse, his body began to feel an overwhelming urge when he looked at the people around him. The urge to devour them. He bit into his own hand, using pain to suppress the hunger. Rushing home, Kaneki discovered his right eye had changed. It was the red-black ghoul eye, a Kakugan. Then he remembered what the doctors had said while he was unconscious. To save his life, Dr. Kano had transplanted Rise's organs into his body. That was how he had become half ghoul. Kaneki seized a kitchen knife, desperately trying to cut Rise's organs out of himself, but no blade could pierce his new skin. Hunger drove him into the streets, where a strange, delicious smell drew him onward. It was nostalgic, like his mother's cooking. But when he reached the alley, he realized it was the scent of a corpse. A ghoul was feeding there. Kaneki collapsed in despair. The ghoul noticed him and, surprised he was one of them, offered to share. But then, furious at the intrusion on his territory, the ghoul, Nishiki, attacked. At the last moment, a girl intervened. She was Toka, a waitress from the cafe Kaneki often visited. She revealed Nishiki's actions violated ghoul territory laws. This area was under the protection of Anteiku, a cafe that doubled as a sanctuary for ghouls who wished to coexist peacefully. Though Nishiki was strong, Toka swiftly defeated him. Then she turned to Kaneki, recognizing his unique single Kakugan. Understanding what he was, she offered him a severed arm to eat. But Kaneki clung to his humanity, fighting the monstrous hunger inside him. "If you don't have the courage to eat, then I'll help you." Before she could force him, Anteiku's manager, Yoshimura, arrived. Unlike most ghouls, he was a pacifist vegetarian, or at least as close as a ghoul could be. He explained that Anteiku helped ghouls survive by consuming only the minimum amount of flesh necessary, often from suicide victims, and by suppressing their hunger with special coffee. He also realized Kaneki's condition. Because of Risei's organ transplant, he was a one-eyed ghoul, a rarity and the first Yoshimura had ever seen. Haunted by Risei's voice in his head, Kaneki struggled to resist his hunger. One day, his friend Hide introduced him to Nishiki again, who pretended to be friendly. But soon, Nishiki revealed his true nature, attacking Hide and nearly killing Kaneki. Pushed to the brink, Kaneki's Kagune finally awakened. In desperation, he fought Nishiki, but in his frenzy, Risei's voice whispered, urging him to abandon his humanity and devour his friend. Toka arrived just in time, reminding him that if he gave in now, he would regret it for the rest of his life. When Kaneki awoke, he was back in Anteiku. Hide was safe, recovering from his wounds. Still tormented, Kaneki broke down. He was no longer human, yet he couldn't fully belong to the ghouls either. Yoshimura comforted him. You are both human and ghoul. That makes you unique. You can exist in both worlds. He invited Kaneki to join Anteiku to find out whether ghouls were truly just beasts of hunger. And so, Kaneki began his life in the 20th Ward's peaceful district, a half ghoul, half human, walking the line between two worlds.
The next day, a mother and daughter arrived at the cafe seeking help. The mother's name was Ryoko, and her daughter's was Hinami. They sought protection from the manager because Ryoko's husband had fallen into grave danger. He had crossed paths with a powerful S-rated ghoul named Yamori, Jason. At the same time, the CCG was also investigating Jason. 3 months earlier, Jason had clashed with the strong man in the 13th Ward, which caught the CCG's serious attention. Investigators had even found Jason's pliers at the scene, concluding that he was the source of repeated unrest. So investigators Kudeo Mato and Amon Kotaro were dispatched to the 20th Ward to track him down. Because investigators carried weapon cases containing quinkeis, weapons made from ghoul kagune, ghouls referred to them as doves. Meanwhile, inside the cafe, Kaneki was learning how to make coffee under the manager's guidance. The manager also taught him how to fake eating human food, swallow it quickly to suppress nausea, pretend to chew, then spit it out before digestion, since human food weakens a ghoul's body. Soon the manager gave Kaneki his first responsibility, food procurement. Normally this was Toka's job, but she was busy preparing for exams. Kaneki was relieved to learn that this didn't mean hunting humans. He was accompanied by the quiet and stoic Yomo, who brought him to a cliff, a well-known suicide spot where despairing humans often ended their lives. These bodies became the primary food source for Anteiku. Though cold on the surface, Yomo was warm-hearted inside. In his spare time, Yomo taught Kaneki self-defense and even introduced him to friends. At a local bar, Kaneki learned he wasn't alone. There were other half-ghouls like him. But unlike Kaneki, they were the children of human-ghoul relationships. These rare hybrids, if they survived, became even stronger than pure ghouls, known as one-eyed half-ghouls. Kaneki's case, however, was different, and his true potential remained uncertain. The bartender also revealed a shocking rumor. Rise's death may not have been an accident, but murder. Before he could elaborate, Yomo cut him off. Who killed Rise and why remained a mystery. Living as a ghoul meant constant danger, especially from investigators. So Kaneki, guided by Toka, met Uta, a ghoul mask maker. Uta was eccentric, enjoyed teasing Kaneki about his crushes. He explained that masks helped ghouls hide among humans. The longer a ghoul wore a mask of normalcy, the harder it became to take it off. To Uta, Toka was the most successful example, living among humans despite the risks. On his way home, Kaneki reflected on his uncertain future, but resolved to help others however he could. At the cafe, he grew closer to Hinami, who loved books but couldn't read well. Since she shared the same favorite author as Kaneki, he helped her learn to read and their bond deepened. But one day, an unwelcome guest arrived, Tsukishima Shu, an S-rated ghoul and a twisted gourmet obsessed with high-class meals. He immediately noticed that Kaneki's scent was identical to Raise's and secretly decided Kaneki would be his next delicacy. Tsukishima staged a chance encounter at Kaneki's university, pretending to be harmless and refined. His cultured manner and intellectual talk soon lowered Kaneki's guard. He even spoke of Raise, pretending to know her well, though he in truth been bitter enemies. Kaneki, blind to Tsukishima's true intentions, followed him to a high-class restaurant. After drinking coffee, Kaneki lost consciousness, drugged. He awoke in a strange hall, a private ghoul gathering where guests delighted in watching prey suffer. Here, Tsukishima unveiled his true nature. The ghouls were baffled when Tsukishima offered up another ghoul, Kaneki, as food. But when Kaneki's scent filled the room, they realized he carried a human-like aroma, which drove them into a frenzy. Kaneki fought desperately against the butcher chosen to kill him. Though outmatched, his training with Yomo helped him evade attacks. But the drug slowed him down until he collapsed, nearly strangled. At the brink of death, Kaneki's ghoul power erupted, blasting his opponent away and revealing his half-ghoul nature to all. Tsukishima was ecstatic. Kaneki was a delicacy unlike any other. Yet instead of killing him, Tsukishima spared him, declaring that only he himself could savor such a perfect dish, and only with the most exquisite preparation. When Kaneki awoke, he was back at Anteiku, shaken. Later, he and Hinami visited Toka, who was sick from eating too much human food. When Toka's classmate brought homemade dishes, she mistook Kaneki for Toka's boyfriend, leaving awkwardly. Toka forced herself to eat, showing Kaneki her hidden kindness beneath the harsh exterior. Meanwhile, Kaneki encountered Nishiki Nishio being beaten. Though Nishiki had once tried to kill him, Kaneki saved him and brought him home. There, he met Nishiki's girlfriend, Kimi, who was human. Despite knowing Nishiki was a ghoul, she stayed by his side out of love and compassion. Her devotion made Kaneki wonder if his own secret were exposed. Would his human friend Hide still accept him? Before he could find answers, Tsukishima reappeared, luring Kaneki to a church banquet. Nishiki, grievously injured, insisted on joining him. Inside, Tsukishima revealed his true colors and prepared to devour Kaneki. But before serving him, he intended to season him with Kimi. Nishiki and Kaneki fought back, but against an S-rated ghoul they were powerless. At the last moment, Toka intervened, but weakened from her diet, she was badly injured. As Tsukishima turned to attack Kimi, Nishiki recalled his tragic past. His sister, also a ghoul, had raised him until she was betrayed by her lover and killed by investigators. Since then, Nishiki had distrusted humans until Kimi's love redeemed him. He threw himself at Tsukishima again and again, refusing to give up. Seeing this, Kaneki made a desperate choice. He offered his own flesh to Toka, fueling her strength. With Kaneki's power coursing through her, Toka launched a brutal counterattack. Even Tsukishima couldn't withstand her fury. Grievously wounded, he staggered toward Kimi, only to be intercepted by Nishiki. Toka seized the chance and struck the final blow, killing Tsukishima. Peace returned for the moment. Nishiki and Kimi joined Anteiku, and Hide occasionally visited Kaneki at the cafe. But beneath the calm, a new crisis loomed. Hinami's father had been forced to craft new pliers for Jason. At the same time, investigators Mato and Almon closed in. Mistaking him for a traitor, Jason killed Hinami's father on the spot. Hinami and her mother Ryoko were soon caught up in the crossfire. In the end, Ryoko was slain before Hinami's eyes. Kaneki shielded her, sparing her the sight, but Mato harvested her mother's kagune, turning it into a weapon. Toka, enraged, wanted revenge, but Yoshimura warned her. Fighting the CCG would only bring more investigators and spell disaster for Anteiku. Still, grief consumed her, and donning her rabbit mask, she struck back against the doves.
But Toka donned her rabbit mask and launched a lone attack against the investigators. Just as she was about to strike again, Amen arrived in time to save his colleague, but without his Quinkei, he was quickly injured and defeated. Then Mato appeared, carrying a Quinkei, and joined the battle. Though he looked like a madman, he was in fact extremely dangerous. With just a few words of provocation, he discovered that Toka was here for Nishiki. Seeing her reaction, he insulted Nishiki even more cruelly. Furious, Toka charged at him. Toka's fighting style relied on bursts of speed and power, but her stamina was poor. If she couldn't finish the fight quickly, her strength would rapidly decline. Mato wasn't just skilled with words, though he had once been crushed by Yamori. That was against an S-rated ghoul. Now, he calmly countered Toka's attacks. Her stamina ran out, and his taunts cut deeper. Soon, she was badly wounded. Realizing she had no chance, Toka retreated. Kaneki tried to help treat her wounds, but she refused angrily. She said she deserved it. Inside, she knew she was wrong. But ghouls like Nishiki, who had never harmed a human, were still hunted and slaughtered like beasts. She couldn't bear it. Kaneki understood the conflict inside her. He had not yet fully accepted life as a ghoul, so he didn't see investigators as enemies. To him, the battle between humans and ghouls wasn't simply about right or wrong, but whether human or ghoul, he couldn't stand by and watch either die. That's why he could understand Toka. And because she was his true comrade, he couldn't let her fight alone. He wanted to help her. His words broke down Toka's walls. Together they hid beneath a narrow bridge, waiting to ambush investigators. Speaking of investigators, we must return to Amen. As a first-class investigator, he had always been dedicated. He could strike down ghouls without hesitation, for he had seen too many families torn apart by ghouls. The death of his colleague only strengthened his resolve to set right this twisted world shaped by ghouls. Meanwhile, Mato also received intel. The target location was the very bridge where Toka and Kaneki waited. With sharp instinct, he guessed it was a rabbit trap. He split up with Amen and secretly planted a mysterious package under the bridge. In Unteku, the young gourmet chef felt his mother's presence. Following the scent, he reached the bridge. The package contained Nishiki's corpse. When Kaneki and Toka realized the chef was missing, they searched desperately. Toka finally found him at the bridge, collapsed in grief. Then Mato appeared, his plan complete. Meanwhile, Amen confronted Kaneki. Kaneki's Kagune was weak. He could hardly control it. Soon, he collapsed. Amen shouted angrily at him, "How can ghouls like you, who've taken so many innocent lives, still be allowed to live? This world is wrong. Without you monsters, we could live in peace." Lying on the ground, Kaneki finally understood. The endless war between humans and ghouls had left no room for reconciliation. It wasn't ghouls who twisted the world, but humanity's prejudice against them. Ghouls had emotions just like humans. They only wanted to survive, and survival was their right. Perhaps the only one who could convey this truth was him, someone both ghoul and human. To protect Toka and reach Amen, Kaneki awakened his ghoul powers. With his Kagune, he shattered Amen's weapon, but hunger began to consume him. Fighting his urge to devour him, he begged Amen to flee. "Run, don't make me kill you."
Elsewhere, Mato fought Toka, wielding two Quinkeis at once. He was about to strike her down when the young chef awakened his inherited Kagune. Stronger than his parents, he gravely injured Mato, but spared his life, wishing only to see his parents again. Even dying, Mato staggered forward to attack. To protect the boy, Toka struck him from behind. As death came, he still muttered about eradicated ghouls. Only the wedding ring on his finger revealed he too had once loved someone. This crushed Toka, who collapsed in despair. Meanwhile, Kaneki's hunger fully overwhelmed him. Memories not his own began to control him. As a shadow approached, he muttered, I I'm so hungry. I'm starving. Then, with food brought by Yoshimura, Kaneki regained his sanity. He, Toka, and the chef walked home, but before leaving, Toka glanced back at the bridge, lost in thought. Elsewhere, Amon fought clutching his partner's body, wept in confusion. Why had the ghoul spared him? Why had it cried so sadly? The cycle of revenge between humans and ghouls seemed endless. Time passed. Anteku regained a fragile peace. The chef settled there, and Kaneki returned to the cafe. Life seemed normal again, but it would never be the same. Kaneki confessed to Yoshimura about being overtaken by another's will. Sometimes it was as if history itself possessed him, and when he woke, he remembered nothing. Yoshimura noted that history was a mystery itself. Perhaps the 11th Ward held answers. But CCG had already reinforced the 11th Ward. Investigators were being hunted by ghouls there. Amon was reassigned, partnered with Kuroiwa. Meanwhile, the 20th Ward was handed to newcomers, including Ui and Takizawa. At the same time, a ghoul organization called Ayogori Tree stormed the 11th Ward's CCG branch. Its leader, the mysterious One-Eyed Owl. Among its cadres were Yamori and Ayato, Toka's long-lost brother. Months earlier, Ayogori had appeared suddenly, swiftly conquering the 11th Ward, slaughtering nearly all investigators. Now, they sought Rize. Kaneki noticed that Banjo's feelings for Rize went beyond friendship. To spare him grief, Kaneki lied that Rize had left. But Yumori and Ayato soon appeared. The siblings clashed bitterly. Yumori turned on Kaneki, recognizing Rize's scent on him. He remembered his humiliation at her hands and unleashed his fury by torturing him until he fainted. Even Ayato mocked his sister for living peacefully in the 20th Ward. By the time Yoshimura and Yomo returned, Anteku was in ruins. CCG formed a special task force against Ayogori. Among them was Amon, Kuroiwa, and the young investigator Suzuya Juzo, eccentric but deadly, eagerly awaiting war. Meanwhile, Yoshimura gathered allies for a rescue mission to save Kaneki from Ayogori. Even gourmet shoot Tsukiyama, obsessed with Kaneki, joined in. By then, Kaneki had been reduced to nothing by Yamori's torture. Injected with RC suppressants, his regeneration slowed. His limbs were broken over and over, healed, then broken again. His screams echoed endlessly. Kaneki fell into despair. I'm weak. I was tricked. Stop. Please stop. Banjo tried to rescue him, grateful for Kaneki's kindness. Outside, CCG attacked Ayogori. Suzuya fearlessly charged in, opening the way. CCG forces poured through, and Anteku's squad disguised themselves as Ayogori to infiltrate. In the chaos, Toka clashed with Amon again, but fled when the Bin brothers intervened. Amon killed them with his Quinkes, while Ayato ambushed Toka, only for Yomo to save her. On the rooftop, investigators encountered the One-Eyed Owl. Its aura alone froze them in fear. Meanwhile, Kaneki hallucinated Rize. She reminded him of his mother's kindness, always teaching him to endure, to be gentle. But that gentleness led only to suffering and loss. He finally realized, useless kindness only destroys. To gain something, one must give something up. Accepting this truth, Kaneki embraced his ghoul nature. He devoured Rize's image and said the words, I was wrong. Kaneki accepted being a ghoul. He woke fully, broke free from his chains, and crushed Yumori. Biting into him, he showed his newfound power. Yumori was shocked and couldn't believe the weak prey before him had become so strong. But Kaneki now stood above him. The battle turned, and Kaneki repeated Rize's chilling words, 1,000 minus 7, over and over. Yumori screamed, and Kaneki sank into his hunger.
you watched it till here. Thank you so much for sticking around. You heard the AI voice explain the whole story, but now it's time you see the face behind it. This is me Sunny and you know me as an anime empire. This is my channel made for everyone who loves anime just much as I do. If you enjoyed the video, do not forget to like, subscribe and comment below which anime I should do next. Welcome to the real journey. See you in the next one.